He stood soaking wet, covered in mud, watching the city bus drive away. The one that was supposed to take him to the most important job interview of his life. All because he chose to help an old woman stranded in the rain. He didn't know that she held the key to his future. Jordan woke up before the sun, heart pounding with nervous energy. Today was his big break. The first job interview he'd landed in almost a year. He had barely slept, replaying answers in his head, imagining how he'd introduced himself and what he'd say when they asked about the gap in his resume. He didn't have much, but he'd done his best. His shirt was neatly ironed, his shoes were old but polished, and his printed resume was tucked safely in a plastic folder. As he looked at himself in the mirror, he whispered, "Today's the day. Everything changes." He left his small apartment early, walking to the bus stop with a sense of purpose. The sky was cloudy, and a cool breeze carried the smell of rain. Still, nothing could ruin his mood. Not today. As he approached the main road, he noticed a woman, maybe in her late 60s, standing near a toppled cart. Her grocery bags were torn, and items were rolling into the street. Drivers were just honking and speeding past her like she didn't exist. She looked tired, scared, and completely alone. Jordan froze for a second. He checked the time. His bus was arriving in less than 5 minutes. If he stopped, he'd miss it. But how could he just walk by? Without another thought, he ran over and crouched beside her. "Ma'am, let me help you," he said softly. She looked up, surprised and teary-eyed. Together they picked up her groceries, repacked what they could, and used Jordan's resume folder as a base to carry the rest. She winced with every step, so Jordan offered her his arm. She didn't ask, but he walked her the 2 long blocks to her small apartment. When they arrived, she held his hand and said, "You didn't have to do this. Thank you." Jordan smiled, but his heart dropped as he glanced at the time, 9:23 a.m. His interview was across town in 7 minutes. The bus, his only ride, was long gone. He was wet, muddy, and late. He had helped a stranger, but he might have just lost his future. Jordan stood still for a moment outside the old woman's apartment, trying to catch his breath, hoping he was wrong about the time. He pulled out his phone, 9:23 a.m. His interview was scheduled for 9:30 sharp, across town. A sick feeling formed in his stomach. He looked up at the cloudy sky, now turning darker, as if it shared his mood. His only ride, the city bus, was gone. He had no car, no money for a taxi, and even if he tried running, there was no way he could make it in time. For a brief second he considered calling the company, but then remembered he didn't even have enough credit left on his phone. The sky finally broke, and a soft drizzle turned quickly into heavy rain. Jordan didn't run, he didn't even try to shelter himself. He walked slowly to the nearest bus stop, soaked and quiet. His resume folder, once neat and ready, was now bent, the corners wet and soft. People passed him, some rushing to work, others huddled under umbrellas. Jordan stood still, his thoughts louder than the storm around him. All that effort, all those nights practicing his answers, preparing his pitch, getting his hopes up, it all seemed wasted now. But even as disappointment weighed on him, he didn't regret stopping to help. That woman had needed someone. What if he hadn't helped? What if she had fallen or been hit in traffic? He shook his head, trying to keep his thoughts from spiraling into frustration. "You did the right thing," he muttered under his breath. But the right thing didn't feel so right when you're wet, alone, and watching your last chance disappear. As the rain drenched his clothes and hope began to fade, Jordan sat on the edge of the bench, completely defeated. He didn't know what would happen next. All he knew was that he had missed the most important moment of his life, for someone he didn't even know. But deep inside, a small voice whispered, maybe it wasn't a mistake after all. Jordan walked home in silence, his clothes soaked and heavy, shoes squishing with every step. The rain had slowed, but the chill had already sunk into his bones. His mind was numb. He didn't even feel angry anymore, just empty. He had pinned everything on that one interview. It wasn't just a job to him, it was hope. A chance to finally help his mum with rent, to stop skipping meals, to stop waking up with the weight of failure pressing on his chest. And now, it was gone. As he reached his apartment building, a crumbling, faded structure with cracked walls and a broken buzzer, he avoided eye contact with his neighbors. Some of them had seen him leave that morning, dressed neatly, smiling for the first time in weeks. He didn't want them to see him now, wet, tired, and beaten. He closed the door behind him and sat on the edge of his small mattress. Water dripped from his sleeves onto the floor. He stared at the wall, not moving, not thinking. Then his phone buzzed. It was a message from the company. "We're sorry you missed your interview. We wish you the best in your job search." Just one line. No second chance. No follow-up. Just like that, the door was closed. Jordan slowly took off his wet shirt and hung it on a nail near the window. The room smelled of dampness and old wood. He hadn't eaten breakfast, and now, with no appetite, he skipped lunch too. Lying down, he stared at the ceiling, his stomach growling but his heart too heavy to care. But even as everything around him felt like it was falling apart, one thought stayed with him. He had helped someone who truly needed it. He could have walked past her like everyone else did, but he didn't. And maybe, just maybe, that meant something. Asterisk as he drifted off to sleep, he whispered to himself, I did what was right. Even if no one saw it. I know, in a world that often rewards selfishness, Jordan had chosen compassion. All he had now was his heart and a little hope left in it. Asterisk 3 days had passed since the interview. Jordan hadn't left his apartment except to get a loaf of bread and a bottle of water. His phone stayed silent. He hadn't applied to any new jobs, not because he didn't want to, but because something inside him had gone quiet. He felt stuck, like life had hit pause. Every morning he sat by the window, staring out at the people moving through their lives while his own seemed frozen. Asterisk then, on the third morning, just as he was about to turn his phone off to save battery, it rang. The number was unfamiliar. He almost let it go to voicemail, but something told him to answer. Asterisk, hello, he said, his voice tired. Asterisk, is this Jordan Miles? A calm, warm voice replied, this is Eleanor. We met a few days ago. Asterisk, Jordan blinked. The woman from the bus stop, yes, of course, I remember. Asterisk, I wanted to thank you again for what you did. Most people would have walked right by. Asterisk, it was nothing, Jordan said softly. Just doing what felt right. She said, pausing for a moment. There's something else. I didn't mention it then because I wasn't sure how to bring it up, but I'm actually the CEO of the company you were supposed to interview with. Asterisk, Jordan sat up straight, heart thudding. Wait, what? Asterisk, I saw your name on the interview list the next day, and when I read your resume I recognized it. Your background, your experience, it's impressive. But what really stood out wasn't on paper. It was what you did for me that morning. You chose kindness over convenience. That's rare. Asterisk, Jordan was speechless. He didn't know what to say. Asterisk, I'd like you to come in tomorrow, Jordan, she continued. Not for an interview, for orientation if you're still interested. The job is yours. Asterisk, tears welled up in Jordan's eyes. He couldn't speak. He just nodded, even though she couldn't see it. Asterisk, sometimes the doors that close are just leading you to the ones that open unexpectedly and beautifully. Jordan barely slept that night, not because of worry this time, but because of something he hadn't felt in months. Excitement. He ironed his shirt again, the same one he wore the day everything seemed to fall apart. This time, it felt different. He wasn't heading into an interview as a desperate man hoping for a chance. He was walking into a new life that had found him when he least expected it. Asterisk, when he arrived at the office the next morning, the security guard greeted him by name. Ms. Eleanor's expecting you, he said with a smile. Jordan nodded, stunned. Everything felt surreal. He stepped into the elevator, watching the numbers climb as his nerves grew. On the top floor, the doors opened to a sleek, bright office. Eleanor stood by the window, dressed sharply, confident yet familiar. When she turned and saw him, her smile was warm, the same as when he had helped her carry her groceries. You made it, she said. I still can't believe this is real, Jordan replied. She walked him through the office, introducing him to the team. Everyone greeted him with kindness. Then she stopped in front of a desk with a nameplate that read Jordan Miles, Project Coordinator. He stared at it, overcome with emotion. Asterisk, I didn't give you this job because you helped me, Eleanor said gently. I gave it to you because the way you treated a stranger showed me the kind of character we need in this company. Skills can be taught, heart can't. Jordan smiled, holding back tears. For the first time in a long while he felt seen, not just as another applicant or a struggling man, but as someone who mattered. That day, as he sat at his desk, getting logged into his new role, he realized something important. The moment he thought he had lost everything was the very moment his life had quietly begun to change. Because sometimes, doing the right thing even when no one's watching is what leads you exactly where you're meant to be. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, share, and show your support. Asterisk, subscribe to Deep Wounds for more powerful and emotional life stories.